I never saw anything get the better of Timmy, but one summer he got, unfortunately, sun poisoning, and his lip was just out. His lip was as big as a house. It was a bad case of sun poisoning. But he had more zinc oxide. I remember him sitting there one afternoon, and he ended up leaving early that summer, but he had more zinc oxide on this lip. You could have covered Dennis's entire back with the amount of zinc oxide that he had on his lip. But it was a tough summer. He looked at me and he said, "Mike, this is not fun. This is just not fun." Up in Boston, Uncle Frank and I used to take in Timmy's football games at Stonehill. And they were always exciting. And it was always exciting to watch Timmy play football. But what was sometimes just as exciting as watching Timmy play football was watching Uncle Frank watch Timmy play football. And at the end of some of those games, I could never tell who was more exhausted. Was it Timmy or Uncle Frank? I remember we arrived early for one of his games, and Uncle Frank and I thought we might catch Tim before the game. So we found his drawer room, and we were walking down the hall towards his room, and we saw this massive pile of clothes, dirty clothes, in the hallway just outside of his door. Obviously, this is where they decided to keep their dirty laundry. So we knocked on the door, and we opened up the door, and the locker room smell, we bolted back from the smell. Timmy wasn't there, and we kind of backed away to leave, and I saw Uncle Frank walk over to this pile of clothes, and he gives it a quick little kick with his foot, And this is a huge pile of clothes, and I think we both had the same thought. Timmy could be under there somewhere. So Uncle Frank said to me, "Mike, it never hurts to check." Quite a few years, I'd get a call in the fall, and Timmy would outline a plan to attend a game, usually a Notre Dame game somewhere a couple of months out. And these calls were ready-made events, tickets, transportation, hotels, the works, and I always appreciated the call. And I remember one year Timmy called, and my wife Lori's in the room, and she can hear my half the conversation. I'm going, "Great, that's awesome, I can't wait." And Lori says to me, "Who's that?" And I go to the phone and I say, "It's Tim John." So the call goes on for another minute or so, and bear in mind these conversations were relatively quick. And also bear in mind that I'm getting this in Timmy speak. So it goes on. We say our goodbyes, and I say, we'll talk soon. And Lori's excited because I'm excited, and she says, "What did he say?" And I remember saying, "I don't know what he said, but I think we're going to a game somewhere in a couple of months. I'm pretty sure it's a Notre Dame game." One BC Notre Dame game in Boston, we were pretty high up in the stands, kind of the corner of the end zone. And Timmy, unfortunately, was escorted by the security out of the game for an open container. And I'm with my son Dan, and we're watching him leave the stands. And at the time, I'm thinking, well, this is a pretty valuable life lesson for my son Dan. Actually, that part of it didn't work out. But anyway, Timmy goes out, and he goes around to the other side of the stadium, buys a BC hat from a vendor, grabs someone's ticket stub, ends up back in the stadium with seats practically on the field, with a bird's eye view of the greatest goal line stand that these two teams have ever had against each other. Timmy was not one to be denied. He could turn lemons into lemonade, or more appropriately, he could turn warm beer into cold beer. Because that's how he met us as we came out of that game. One night we were in Manhattan. I think it was Midtown Murphy's. Is there Midtown Murphy's? I'm pretty sure.
Yes. No, there isn't.
We were out real late. This was 2 or 3 in the morning. And we'd been eating all day, and we had a few beers. So I have to go to the bathroom, which is different than taking a pee. Anyway, I'm down there. I'm in this small little excuse for a bathroom, and Timmy comes in, and he's taking a pee. And I hear him say, "Mike, is that you?" And then there's a little pause. Yeah, it's me. It's a little more of a pause, and he says in a voice that's loud enough to be heard over the music upstairs, "Are you taking a dump?" For the next 5 minutes, Timmy's trashing the lack of control over my bodily functions. He's talking about my intestines. He's talking about body etiquette. The works. And I'm trapped in there. It was brutal. And I'll never forget it. To this day, I've never gone to the bathroom after midnight. One time, Timmy grabbed me for a basketball game at the DAC. It was a Saturday or Sunday morning. It was a 4-on-4, and Timmy knows everyone. And we started running up and down the court. It's a lot of running gun. I'm obviously not getting the ball. No one's beating me with the ball at all. I'm a relatively tall guy, so I'm kind of in the middle where I slow it down a little bit. I'm running down and I see Timmy waiting for me in the key, and he says, "Mike, whatever you're doing is not working. You got to pick it up." So I pick it up a little bit, and I'm running down at a better clip. A few minutes later, as I'm running down the court, Timmy comes running alongside me, flips around, and his hair's curls are going, the sweat's coming down, and he's basically running backwards in front of me. He says, "Mike, I told these guys that you were my cousin. Let's do this." So the next half hour, I'm going all out. And I don't remember if we actually won or lost that game, but I do remember I couldn't walk for 2 days. So I also remember that he continued to introduce me as his cousin for the rest of the morning. So, and as you know, Timmy used every tool in the book. And I consider that a great day. So, Timmy also went out of his way to connect with my kids. Every conversation we had included kids. The fact that he and Maura reached out to my daughter, to ask my oldest daughter, Kristen, to be Brian's godmother, was just, and when Kristen was just 15 years old, was unbelievable. He worked hard to create the strong family ties. He had an impact on all my kids, because he took time to connect with them every chance he could. Between my kids' school dorms, off-campus housing, summer jobs away from home, they have collectively lived in about 20 different locations in the past 8 to 10 years. And I've moved more furniture than you can imagine. And the only thing that's constant in every one of those rooms is that there's a picture of Tim John after that new room is set up. So my kids and as well as my nieces and nephews, certainly agree with my daughter Kristen's description of Timmy as the coolest guy I know. So you never get over the sense that you've lost something, but for me, certain things have become part of my day-to-day, and I attribute them to Tim. And I'm sure the same is for you. When I do sit-ups, and I'm struggling, and I'm getting up around 17 or 18 sit-ups, I say to myself, who does 300 sit-ups in a day? Whenever I put anything on my lips, which is not that often, I think of Timmy. At work, I do union contract talks, and on a pretty regular basis, the union guys get pretty animated. They start pointing fingers, they use loud voices, and I've gotten pretty good at dishing it right back. I can push my chair back to the table. I can put my chin out and stare at them across the table. And more often than not, when things calm down and we go our separate ways, I always think Timmy would have enjoyed that exchange. And I think he helped me to call things what they were. If those guys weren't bargaining in good faith, I'd call them on it. And I picked up some of that, and I think I'm better for it because Timmy was so direct, he was so emphatic, as you know, and he was so to the point. But for our family, whenever we get together, whatever combination of siblings or cousins, it usually has a Tim John moment. Even at my mom's funeral, which was May 7th, 2008, my son Dan and I and Robbie and Dennis played an intense game of hoop in the water, and it was just very competitive. And I think Timmy makes part of that happen. He continues to make that happen for us. And I'm sure, again for our family, Timmy was like a rising tide. And on a pretty regular basis, you get swept along with him and his courage. You'd be moving and bouncing in some predetermined direction. And after you landed back on shore, you could only say, wow, that was great. Let's do it again. And whenever it comes up, I'm always proud to tell wherever we are that Timmy John Coughlin's my cousin.